Welcome, guys, to another live stream. Happy Friday. Welcome, welcome. In today's live stream, we're going to talk about the financial landscape and how the financial landscape is always changing. And I'm going to bring up, the everyday things that we pay money for that have changed in price over the years. And I think most people do notice these price changes, like the financial landscape changing. But I think also people are not moving with the change, right? They're not adjusting to the price changes. So for instance, rent 10 years ago, you were able to get like a 1 or 2 bedroom for 1,000 to 1,200 bucks, right? A decent 1 bedroom, probably like 700 to 1,000 square feet. And it was a pretty decent apartment. But now to get a 1 to 2 bedroom, you're paying like $2,000 to $3,000, right? So that's an example of how the financial landscape is changing. But what's not changing is wages for the average person, right? Most people are still making $30,000 to $50,000 a year, and if they want to make more than that, then they're gonna have to, they're either working an extra job on the weekend or trying to start up a side business. But then also, there's a big percentage of those people that don't do anything, and they're cutting back on lifestyle, right? I think like if you're making $30,000 to $50,000 a year, I think you can only cut so much back on lifestyle. Because I would say even 10 years ago, I was 20. I would say even with $30,000 to $50,000 at that time, it was decent money. It was considered like if you were making $30,000 to $50,000 coming out of college 10 years ago, which was 2014, it was considered a good job, right? And I think if you equate that, or if you do the math, I think that comes out to like 20 to 25 bucks an hour. I remember at that time everybody was like, if you got a job paying like 20 bucks an hour, that was a real good job, right? And if you were above that, you were doing well. But I still think even at the time, you were able to cover food expenses, rent expenses, but you still wasn't able to like ball out of control. And not really ball out of control, but just enjoy yourself, right? You were able to keep up, but you weren't able to splurge crazy with 30 to 50,000 bucks. But now, with rent prices for a 1 bedroom, for my 1 bedroom, I'm paying 2,300, close to 2,400 bucks. Now, obviously, I live downtown, so it's a lot more, you know, I wouldn't say luxurious, but I guess you could say that. But it's a little bit more, right? The location is in a better area and stuff like that. So obviously, I'm gonna pay more for my apartment. But even apartments that are not prime area downtown, high up or whatever the case may be, you're still paying like $1,600 to $1,700 a month, and that's in the suburb area. So yeah, that 20 to $30 hour paying job that you had 10 years ago, or that you could get 10 years ago, that was sufficient for the average person's lifestyle. That's not that's not sufficient today. So that's what I mean by the financial environment is changing, and it's only going up, right? Prices are only going up, but what's not going up is wages, right? If only if you're adapting to the times, if you're building your skill set so you could get a better position. But you know, even with that, with the job, it's kind of hard these days too to even get a job. You go on LinkedIn and they put a position out, and they have like the little spot at the top where you could see who applied for the position, and after like a day or a couple few hours, there's already like 40 to 50 applicants plus that apply for the position. So there's not I wouldn't say, because if you look around, like if you look at the news, they're always saying that there's jobs out there. And I think there is. I think if you want a job, I think you have no problem finding a job. But if you want a good job to keep up with the inflation of you know, things that you need on a daily basis, rent, food, and so on and so forth, that is hard to find. But if you just want like a job at Burger King or McDonald's, and I'm not to say that those jobs are not important, but you know, you could find those jobs pretty quickly. But most likely, the pay that you're going to get at that job is not going to suffice for the increase in prices that we see today. And rent is one of those things where it's like that's the main cost, right? But most people's the most expense, the highest expense for most people is their rent. And like I said, if a one bedroom is even if you're not really living in a high class area or it's luxury, you're still going to be paying $1,600 to $2,000 for rent, right? So that's one of the things that is changing in the financial landscape. I would say rent, and things that you can notice, right? So also one other thing is haircuts, right? So I remember 10 years ago, you could get a haircut for $20, and that was like with tips. So the haircut was 15 and 20, 15, and then with tip it was 5. So in total it was 20. So you could go in and get a haircut for $20. But now, right now, I pay $60 for a haircut, right? And I almost go every week. So you know, it's about $240, right, a month, opposed to the $20 that I was paying before. I don't think I was getting a haircut, I think like twice every 2 weeks back then, but now I get it almost like every week. But like if we just add up the cost, right? Let's say if I was getting a haircut, let's say if I was getting a haircut back then every week, it would have cost me $80. Now it's costing me $240, right? So it's 3 times the amount. Within 10 years, the price has tripled, tripled the amount. But I for me, it's not as bad because back then I wasn't making as much money, but I have kept up with inflation as far as salary and, you know, making the right investments and stuff like that. But most people are not doing that. Most people are not keeping up with the financial landscape. So that's another one. Haircuts is one thing I noticed. Rent, and then also food. Food is probably another thing that's just gone up crazy in price. I went to the supermarket and I haven't had cereal in probably like 5 to 10 years, but I was looking at the cereal boxes and it's like $10 for a cereal box, right? And that's not obviously not including the milk. Most people eat cereal with milk. I know some people like just eat it right out the box, but you still have to buy milk. A gallon of milk, I think it's close to like $5 to $6, right? So in total, it's like $16. So back then, I think cereal boxes were going for like $2.50. So that's, 4 times the price for a cereal box. And I think back then, a gallon of milk, probably the same thing. You could probably get for like $2.25 to $2.50. And now I think it's like $6-7. So 3 times the amount. So again, the financial landscape is changing because all these things are increasing in price. So, and most people are not increasing their salary. What most people have been doing as these prices have been increasing, they just been cutting back, right? Like, oh, okay, this has gone up in price. Our haircuts have gone up in price. Let me not get my haircut every week. Let me get it maybe every 2 weeks or let me get it once a month, or maybe let me not get it at all. Maybe I cut my own hair, right? And that is a good way to save money, but I don't think that mindset allows you to make more money and get you in a better place, right? Um, because if you were just doing the bare minimum before, and when I say bare minimum, I'm saying, pay for your food, pay for your rent, maybe, you spend like $100 on the weekend on things that you like, but those things went up in price 3 to 4 times in price. And you're saying, okay, I'm going to take those things away, even though I was doing the bare minimum to enjoy myself on the weekend, the 50 to $100 I was spending, that's the enjoyment I get. Let me take that stuff away because that stuff has gotten too expensive. And I think that's just the wrong mindset to have. I think you should be figuring out ways to make more money so that way you can compensate for the change in prices that you're seeing today, right? I think saving is good, but when it gets to a point where you're cutting back on the quality of life, I don't think it's good, especially when that quality wasn't too ridiculous in the first place, right? Most people don't really go crazy on spending. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't, right? Most people, their pleasures are like, okay, let me just get the coffee that I like, or maybe, once a month, maybe you go get a pair of sneakers that you like, or maybe every two months you get a pair of whatever. And if you have to cut back on that because things are getting too expensive, I think that's just the wrong way to do it, right? Because you weren't really overdoing it in the first place. It's just you need to keep up with the price increase. And the way you do that, one, is by investing, right? You do that by investing and being in the market. Time in the market beats time outside the market. I think that's how it goes, right? Some saying like that. And then also increase your skill set, right? I even like when I graduated, I had a finance degree, but coming out of college, I was only getting paid like $35,000 or $36,000, right? So I had to get experience in the job market to get to, you know, triple that or quadruple that. So that way I can keep up with inflation. So I think that's one main thing people need to consistently do is to increase their skill set. So that way when prices increase, you're going to be fine because you have the skill set to bring value to the market for somebody to pay you more than what inflation is, right? Or what inflation is doing to the market. So yeah, I think everybody should be increasing their skill set, and it goes back to if you work a 9 to 5, it goes back to using those your weekends to get ahead and build a skill set. Because sometimes you can't really. Sometimes it has to be outside of your 9 to 5. Most people want to work, and working more hours works too. But sometimes you have to build a skill set outside of your 9 to 5 so you can maybe build a side business or have some type of investing thing going on. So that way it can compensate for price increase. And you don't just want to keep up. That's another thing too. Most people just want to keep up with expenses. I think people should be striving at least 20 to 30% over that. So where you could keep up with where inflation's at, but then also, you have a surplus to where you could put money away and you can invest and you can, you know, not just keep up, do better than the average. I think, if you're just trying to keep up with paying bills and paying expenses, I don't think that's a way to live either. Again, it's not about making the most money, but it's also about living a good quality life, right? And if you have certain things that you like in your life, you should be able to keep those things in, you know, on your expense list, right? Shouldn't be taking those things off. But yeah, so that is something that I thought about, especially looking at. I was also looking at cars too. Cars is another thing that has gone up in price, right? So I think back then, I mean, I wasn't getting a brand new car back then, but back then, I think if you bought a brand new car, I mean, your payment was like 200 to $300. Right now, I pay 465 for my car, and that's just the car. You have to add on insurance. You have to add on gas. I mean, if you really look at it, you're probably paying like 800 to $900 a month just to keep the car, right? And also, where I live, I have to pay $100 fee each month to park the car in the garage. So that's another expense. I'm actually looking to get. So my plan with the car. So okay, so and because of what I said earlier too is not to cut back. I think cutting back. I think making money and cutting back in a smart way works too, right? I don't think all cutting back is like bad, right? Because I think you could cut back and still have that quality. So like for instance, I'm looking to get an electric car after this car that I have, right? But I'm looking to just buy that electric car out, and that's going to be my car forever. And then if I want something, maybe whatever, if I wanted like a sports car, something like that, I could lease it later on. But right, I'm getting electric car so I can cut back on gas, but I'm really not cutting back on quality, right? It's going to be a decent car, but it's like, I'm looking at these gas prices and I'm like, every time I fill up, and I really don't, because I like I said, I live downtown, so every place is like close, like walking distance. So I don't really need a car like that, but I do like to go. It's one like Florida and is one of those places where it's like you kind of do need a car. It's not like New York where you could just take the bus. I mean, I could take the bus, but it's just not one of those places. It's just more convenient to have a car, and I like to I like to just be able to get up and go. I don't like to just have to call Uber or Lyft to pick me up, right? And that could get expensive too if you're paying, like, let's say the price for Uber or the price for Lyft is $35 going and then $35 back, and that's 65, and then you just went to one place, right? And in a day, you're probably going to 3, 4 places, so that could get pretty expensive. But I say all that to say that me getting the electric car is not cutting back on my quality of life. It's still a nice car, but I don't have to pay for gas, right? It's an expense that I can cut out without really sacrificing any quality of life, right? So yeah, that's one of the expenses I'm looking to cut out in the next year or two. And cut out, when I mean cut out, I'm gonna pay, like, I'm gonna try to pay the electric car off, and then the gas, obviously, the place where I live, they let you charge for free. Hopefully, by the time I get the car, or if I'm even here, or the new place that I go to has a free charging spot. But even if I had to pay for the charging spot, it's gonna be cheaper than paying gas, right? Like I said, to put half a tank in my car, it's like $40. So a full tank would be 80. And I don't know what it is. I think my car, like, I don't know if it just goes through gas so quick, but I feel like I fill up and then like in 2, 3 days I need to fill up again. So yeah, I think the financial landscape is changing. Things are getting more expensive, and you need to be aware, and then two, take action in the sense that, okay, I'm working this 9 to 5. You assess your money making abilities, right? So if I'm at a job and I see prices going up, like, okay, can I get a raise at the job? All right. Or can I get a new position at the job where it's going to pay me more money so I can keep up with these increase in prices? That's probably the first question you can ask. All right. No. Yes. Great. No. Okay. Next. I have the weekends free, right? Most people do. Or do I have time on the weekend where I can squeeze in a part time job, 4 or 5 hours a week, or 4 or 5 hours each day of Saturday and Sunday, 10 hours in total, where I can work this job to get me ahead, right? Now, obviously, that's probably going to get tiring for most people. You work your 9 to 5 during the week. You probably don't want to do anything on the weekend, or you want to do the things you like. But again, even in that situation, most people, if they want to get financially ahead, I always say that you have to use the weekends and you have to use the time after you work as well to get ahead. All right. But again, if you can't make the money, the additional money at your job, getting a new position, or getting an increase, then you get another job, right? If that's something that you don't want to do, maybe you start a business, or two, maybe you start investing and doing that and doubling your money, tripling your money, so you can keep up with prices. Because if you don't do that, you're gonna have to start cutting back on quality of life, right? And I see most people that do that, they're angry. Especially people that are married, things start going up in price. People don't have money. People start arguing. You're not able to do the things you used to do. You're not able to do new things to keep everything going. So, yeah, it affects you, and sometimes you won't even notice it. I mean, you'll notice it, but sometimes you can't point to what's causing the problems. But most of the problems that people have is financially, and it's because they weren't keeping up with price increases. Right? You see the cereal going up in price. You see the haircuts going up in price. You see the car going up in price. You see the insurance is going up in price, medical insurance. All these things are going up in price except for your wage, except for the money you're bringing in. So you're losing value, right? Your dollar is not going as far as it used to, and you need to do something about it. Right? If not, you're gonna have to cut quality of life, and that tends to cause problems in a lot of different areas. All right. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about how the financial landscape is changing. So just be aware of that and make sure you make the necessary adjustments. But yeah, take care, and you guys have a good Friday. Take care.